Well, I'm in the shed again with a cup of tea. My chance to escape and be on my own. And I thought I would just continue from a short talk I did a little while ago about my dad being the gardener. And that talk was really focusing in on John chapter 15 and the words of Jesus when he talked about the vine, about him being the true vine and us being the branches, and the Father pruning and cutting the branches so that they would be even more fruitful. And so I wanted to, just in my garden shed, just talk a little bit more about the fruit of what Jesus was talking about. So this isn't a lecture on healthy eating or getting your 5 a day. No, the spiritual fruit that Jesus is talking about is something that is to do with what can be seen in our character by us and other people. And the key verse that I'm talking about is found in John chapter 15, and it's verse 8. And it says this: "When you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples," or students you could use. "This is to my Father's glory." Basically, when there's visible evidence of fruit in our lives, God the Father loves it and he gets all the glory. Dad loves fruit. So what's the fruit of the Christian life? What is he looking for? Well, apple trees produce apples, and raspberry canes, my hope this year, will produce raspberries. And for the Christ follower, fruit is becoming more like Jesus. Every day as we continue to journey with him, the hope is that we become more like him. And so to become like him, you have to be connected to him, you have to know him, he has to be in you. You can know a lot about Jesus, but if you don't know him and he's not in your life, you're not going to produce fruit. And so that's the start, is to get to know Jesus, to be in him, to be connected with him on a daily basis. Not a one-off opportunity, not a one-time moment in your past, but every day walking with Jesus. Jesus uses this picture of a growing vine not only to describe the ongoing relationship with him and the Father, but also to encourage us to produce something good. The spiritual fruit has to be something we ourselves can see, and it's continually growing, continually developing in our character. For example, when I became a Christian over 20 years ago, I suddenly had people asking me questions about not what I believe, but how I behave. They would ask questions like, "Don't you ever swear? Do you ever get angry? Do you drink? Why are you always smiling?" In fact, sometimes I'm still asked these questions. These people who knew me before I encountered Jesus had seen a visible change in my behaviour. They knew I had become a Christian, not because I had told them, but because they'd started to see a change in me. Maybe other people had begun to tell them, "Oh, Dave's become a Christian, he's joined a church, he's gone a bit crazy." They'd started to see a change. In Galatians chapter 5, Paul writes in verses 19 to 22, he contrasts the acts of the sinful nature, the things that we do wrong, all of us, against the fruit of the Spirit, the evidence of a life living and abiding in Christ. Paul says these are the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. When we look at the life of Jesus, we see all of these 9 characteristics and more as he lived among the people in the Middle East over 2,000 years ago. Jesus exemplified, personified love and joy and peace and patience. Jesus loved people, even those who on the surface looked unlovable. Jesus was actually called friend of sinners. He loved tax collectors, prostitutes, terrorists, lepers, and even Roman soldiers considered the enemy. He didn't love their lifestyle choices, but he loved them because he saw that they were God's people, created in the image of God. And so let me encourage you, first off, to be connected with Jesus. Find out who he is. Listen to his voice. Submit your life to him. Follow him, so that you can begin to become like him. Jesus changes us from the inside out. When something takes place on the inside of us, in our hearts, in our minds, it begins to show on the outside. And that's the fruit that God talks about. Last time we talked about Jesus, or the Father, the gardener, cutting off everything that is unfruitful. And I know in my life God has cut some things out over the years. He doesn't do it all in one go. He does it very carefully. He carefully tends the vine. I know over the years my patience have developed, that I've found more peace, that I've become more gentle in my approach. In some things that I would get angry and frustrated about, God has pruned over those years so that gentleness becomes more visible, and self-control becomes something that is easier rather than a battle. So I'm going to leave you with that for now, and hopefully there'll be another thought from the shed in a few days' time. I've come here just to get some peace. You know, peace is a fruit of the Spirit, but it doesn't just come because we click our fingers. We have to put ourselves in a place where we can experience God's peace. For me at this time, it's just escaping to the shed to be by myself. You know, you can have peace in the midst of the storm. I've got a wasp in here again. I can have peace in the midst of a wasp buzzing around me, peace inside my heart. But we can have peace in the midst of the storm as well. I mean, I think of the people on the front line at the moment working against this coronavirus. And I would imagine some of them have anxiety and stress and worry. But I will also imagine there'll be some Christian doctors and nurses there that are somehow maintaining their peace because they're connected, they're rooted in Jesus. You know, you can't have fruit if there's no root. Amen. See you again soon.